Murder in Maplewood by Hannah Shephard. Episode 2. A Batch of Betrayal. A light rain blew wet yellow and orange leaves against the window of Cora Reid's cafe, Espresso Yourself. The brisk autumn weather didn't seem to discourage the steady stream of customers coming in for their morning coffee and pastries. In fact, today the cafe was busier than usual, with a growing crowd that hovered near the entrance. Part of the dining room had been roped off. A crew whisked about, setting up tables, mixers, portable ovens, and bright camera lights, transforming the cozy cafe into a competition space. Cora wiped her hands on her apron as she approached the counter. Detective Mark Jameson sat in his regular spot, stirring his coffee absently. "Staring won't make that coffee confess, you know," she said. She slid a plate with a hot blueberry muffin toward him. Jameson chuckled, raising one dark eyebrow. "Coffee's outside my jurisdiction," he said. "I'm a detective, not a barista. Speaking of, I still can't believe how packed this place is. Looks like murder did you a world of good, huh?" Cora rolled her eyes with a groan. "Not quite the marketing strategy I had in mind, but yeah. Business has been booming ever since we solved the Bob Lambert case." She sighed and patted her long brown hair to make sure that none of it had escaped her braids since she'd started work. "I'm starting to think I need two of me just to keep up." Jameson chuckled, then picked up his muffin and broke it in half. Steam rose from the center, and he sniffed appreciatively at the sweet blueberry aroma. "Sounds like you need some help. Maybe Archie could start pulling his weight." He nodded toward Cora's Cavalier King Charles Spaniel, who was curled up in his favorite green armchair by the counter. "I'm not sure Archie's cut out for customer service," Cora quipped, reaching down to scratch the dog's silky brown ears. "I've advertised for a part-time employee, but I haven't had time to go through the applications. And with the Maplewood Bake-Off about to start, I'm not sure when I'll get the chance." Jameson took a big sip of his coffee. "Hosting the bake-off here must be good for business." "Probably," she admitted, "but it's going to be chaos for the next 3 days. Half of my dining room will be taken over by the competition. There are the contestants, crew, spectators, press, and somehow they managed to convince Vivian Hart to be one of the judges." "Vivian Hart?" Jameson asked, his mouth full of muffin. "Who's that?" Cora shrugged. "Some big-time food influencer. They said she's going to be filming here for her vlog." He choked a little and grabbed his cup, washing muffin crumbs down with another sip of coffee. "Vlog? Now you're just making up words." "Her internet videos," Cora laughed. "She's going to post videos of the competition." "Oh, well, there can't be that many people who want to watch videos of the Maplewood Bake-Off." "She has 250,000 followers." Jameson whistled. "That sounds like some pressure. Think you'll survive?" "Survival is one thing," Cora said, wiping her forehead theatrically with a hand towel. "But enjoying it might take a miracle." She leaned in and lowered her voice to a conspiratorial whisper. "Did I mention I'm hiring? You look like you know your way around a cake pan." Jameson held up his hands in surrender. "Sorry, I solve crimes, not croissants. I'll leave you to it before I get roped into frosting duty." He stood up and brushed some crumbs from his sleeve. Cora shook her head. "Fine, abandon me. But don't think you won't be hearing from me when something inevitably goes wrong." Jameson grabbed his jacket and started for the door, pausing just long enough to flash her a grin. "When it does, you know where to find me." He glanced toward the increasingly packed dining area. "Good luck. It looks like you're going to need it." When he stepped outside, Cora turned back toward the competition area. It certainly wasn't recognizable as part of her cafe anymore. She glanced at Archie, who blinked up at her wistfully. "All right, buddy," she muttered. She straightened her apron and took a deep breath. "It's showtime." Just then, the bell over the door jingled, cutting through the buzz. A middle-aged woman with frizzy auburn hair dashed inside, followed by a gust of chilly, wet wind. She immediately pulled off her rain-speckled glasses and wiped them on the sleeve of her cardigan. After a few squints, she spotted Cora at the counter. She bustled over with a bright smile, a clipboard clutched tightly to her chest. "Cora Reid?" she asked, extending her hand. "I'm Marian Miller. We spoke on the phone." "Oh, yes," Cora replied, returning the handshake. "Nice to finally meet you in person." Marian beamed, and she took a quick glance around the room that sent her glasses sliding down her nose. "Today's the day," she went on breathlessly. She waved her arm to indicate the cafe, where the swirling chaos of competition prep was beginning to settle into order. "Doesn't it look fantastic? So professional. Let me tell you, this is huge for Maplewood." Cora managed a polite smile. "It's something, all right. The cafe's never been this busy." Marian leaned in, pushing her glasses back into place. "Just wait till the baking begins," she said. "It's going to be fabulous. It looks like the contestants are all set up, and we'll get started shortly." The bakers were gathered around their stations, and they each looked around with varying degrees of confidence. "Now, why don't I introduce you to everyone?" Marian consulted her clipboard and then waved for Cora to follow her. When Cora moved around the counter, Archie leaped down from his armchair. He shook himself and stretched, his silky brown tail wagging high in the air. Cora picked him up and held him securely in her arms, worried that he would get stepped on. Marian led her to the first workstation and gestured toward the contestant there. "This is Emma Carter." Emma, a pale young woman in her late 20s, stood behind her table quietly, calm and seemingly confident. Her light brown hair was braided around her head in a crown, and she wore a ruffled lavender apron over a vintage floral dress. Clutched in her hands was a worn old binder stuffed with tattered, stained pages. "Emma is the granddaughter of Edith Carter," Marian continued, a hint of reverence in her voice. "You've heard of her, of course." Cora took a second look at the young woman and the binder she was holding. It had to be 40 or 50 years old at least, almost twice the age of the baker holding it. "Edith Carter, as in the Carter Cup?" Edith Carter was a local legend, a baking powerhouse who had won countless blue ribbons at county fairs for her cakes, bread, pies, cookies, and desserts. She was such a famous figure that the prize awarded to the grand champion baker every summer was named after her. "The very same," Marian went on. "Now, Emma, is that actually Edith's personal cookbook?" Emma straightened with pride, hugging the battered binder close. "It is. My grandmother taught me everything I know about baking. All her best recipes are in here, every tip and trick she ever learned." "That book is absolutely priceless," Marian said, with one hand on her heart, her eyes wide. "Edith guarded it with her life, and for good reason. Some of the finest food this town's ever seen came from those pages." Cora smiled, although she couldn't quite match Marian's awe. "I'm excited to see what you whip up, Emma. I've heard great things about your grandmother's recipes." "I'm hoping to do them justice," Emma replied. They moved to the next table. Marian introduced the second contestant with a warm smile, but less fervent enthusiasm. "And here we have Zoe Bennett." Zoe seemed full of nervous energy. She was younger than Emma, probably not much more than 20. She had dark, expressive eyes and a round brown face. Her thick black curls had been pulled back into a puffy ponytail, but a rogue strand or two bounced free. She shoved her hands into the pockets of her brightly colored patchwork apron as though she wasn't sure what else to do with them. "Zoe's new to town," Marian continued, "but she loves to bake. I hear she's applied to work here at Espresso Yourself." "Yeah, I could really use a job," Zoe laughed. "Maybe if I win, you'll hire me." "We'll see," Cora said, as kindly as she could. "I'll be keeping an eye on you. Good luck." Zoe gave her a grateful smile. "Thanks. I'm sure I'll need it." Cora and Marian moved to the next workstation. "Rachel Simmons," Marian said, "is no stranger to competition. Wherever she enters, she gives everyone a run for their money." Rachel had sharp features, short blonde hair, and a small, determined frown. Her apron was a pristine white. "That's because I enter to win," she said bluntly, her hands on her hips. "I've worked hard to get where I am, and my skills stand on their own. I don't need hand-me-down recipes to dominate this competition." Her gaze flicked to Emma and back dismissively. Cora raised an eyebrow. Rachel certainly was taking the bake-off seriously. "Well, it's about more than just winning. It's about the experience, right?" Rachel snorted. "Experience I have. I'm here for results." Finally, Marian led Cora to the table at the end. "Our last contestant is Fiona Green. She has several years of bakery experience, so she's a real pro." Fiona greeted Cora with a polite smile. She was somewhere in her mid-40s and kept her dark hair pulled back into a tidy bun. Her light blue apron had her name embroidered on it, and she seemed calm and focused. "Baking is a mix of art and science," she said. "You have to respect the balance." Cora smiled. "I couldn't have said it better myself." Marian broke in again. "Fiona has applied for the position here, too." "That's right," Fiona agreed. "Some part-time baking would give me the flexibility to explore other projects." Cora perked up. A seasoned professional like Fiona could really help pick up the slack around the cafe. "Best of luck to you, Fiona," she said with a smile. Fiona returned the smile with a nod, then turned back to the ingredients she meticulously organized on her table. Marian stepped back, surveying the room. "This is going to be an amazing competition," she said. "I can feel it." The door swung open once again, but this time it sparked a flurry of excitement in the waiting crowd. A young blonde woman carrying a black and white striped umbrella swept into the cafe. She closed her umbrella with a practiced tug. A taller man in a gray hooded jacket struggled in behind her, his arms piled high with black bags and camera equipment. Marian was at her side in 3 quick steps. "Miss Hart! How wonderful that you could make it here today," she gushed. Vivian Hart, after all, who else could it be, smiled a polished, practiced smile and held her umbrella out behind her without looking. She released it before her companion had a firm grip on the wet plastic. He barely caught it before it could hit the floor. "Marian!" she chirped, her wide white smile fixed in place. "You know I wouldn't miss this." Despite the wet autumn day, the influencer looked perfectly camera-ready. Not a strand of her long blonde hair, carefully styled in careless waves, was out of place. Thick black lashes fluttered over sharp green eyes, and her bold magenta lipstick popped against her pale skin. She wore chunky beaded jewelry and a fitted chartreuse blazer over a polka-dot blouse that matched her lips. Her high-heeled shoes clicked against the floor with each confident stride. The man following her stumbled and knocked a chair loudly against a table. Vivian stopped and turned to look at him. Her smile disappeared, and for just a moment she closed her eyes. "This is my cameraman and assistant, Ethan Shoemaker," she said. "Ethan, get the camera out. We're starting." When she turned toward Marian again, her smile was back in place. Ethan set one bag and the umbrella on a table and pulled down the hood of his jacket. He had short brown hair and a square face set in a long, suffering expression. Without saying a word, he opened the bag he still held on his shoulder and pulled out a bulky, professional-looking camera. Vivian waited with thinly veiled impatience as he performed some checks. After a moment, she pulled a sheaf of papers from the bag on the table. She licked her fingers, then separated them into 2 separate stacks. She handed one to Marian and one to Cora. "I'll need these release forms signed before we really get going," she said. "It's just the usual, saying I can film you here and use the footage online." Cora looked down at her paper. There was a small smudge of bright magenta lipstick on the corner. Ethan pointed the camera at Vivian and signaled that he was rolling. She flashed an even more dazzling smile and struck a pose. "Hello, friends," she said brightly. "We're here at the Maplewood Bake-Off where the pies will be hot and the competition will be hotter. I can't wait to get in here and see what everyone has cooked up. As soon as Ethan lowered the camera, Vivian pulled out her cell phone. Her slick manicured nails tapped rapidly on the screen. "Get some B-roll of the cafe and contestants," she said, not looking up. "Use angles that make it feel intimate and homey. You know what we need. Small-town charm." Ethan nodded, shifting his camera to pan across the cafe. Vivian, at least for the moment, seemed disinterested in the charm she was trying to capture. Her phone buzzed in her hand, and the smile she'd been wearing for the camera vanished. The faint annoyance in her expression darkened into something closer to concern. She glanced at Marian. "I need to take this," she said briskly. "Is there somewhere quiet I can go?" Marian blinked, then turned to Cora, who pointed to the back. "My office is through there." Without waiting for further instruction, Vivian nodded and pressed the phone to her ear. She began to speak, her voice much sharper than when she was on camera. "I told you I'm working on it," she said. "These things take time. You can't rush it." There was a pause. "I know what I promised, but I need a little breathing room." The office door clicked shut, cutting off the rest of the conversation. Cora exchanged a surprised glance with Marian, who raised an eyebrow. Well, what else could they expect from a celebrity judge? It wasn't hard to see that Vivian was here more for the content and publicity than for the bake-off itself. As if reading her thoughts, Ethan spoke for the first time. "Don't look at me," he said with a shrug, his tone resigned. "I'm just here to make her look good." He offered Cora a quick, almost apologetic smile before turning his attention back to his camera equipment. Cora chuckled, but she couldn't help wondering about the tense phone call. Vivian emerged from the office a few minutes later. She was all smiles again, though the expression looked a little forced. "All right," she said. "Let's bake." The first round of the competition was a simple pie baking contest. Cora hung back behind the counter, serving coffee and danishes to the spectators who milled outside the roped-off area. Vivian filmed an introduction, and then they were off. The bakers bent over their tables as soon as the timer started, mixing, kneading, and rolling dough. Emma Carter stood serenely at her station, her movements precise and measured. Her old, battered cookbook lay open to a much-stained page with handwritten notes in the margin. She rolled out her pastry. Then she peeled a pile of bright green apples and sliced them into neat, even pieces before tossing them with sugar, flour, cinnamon, and a pinch of nutmeg. Marian stood on tiptoe to get a better view. "That's Edith Carter's blue ribbon Dutch apple pie," she said, to no one in particular. Emma's calm contrasted sharply with Zoe Bennett, only a few feet away. The younger woman's hands shook and she fumbled with her rolling pin, knocking a dish of flour hard enough that a white puff scattered across the table. Vivian seemed to sense an opportunity for drama. She zeroed in on Zoe, waving for Ethan to follow close behind her. "Now, Zoe," she asked, as soon as the camera was in place, "are we witnessing a pie disaster in the making?" Zoe's eyes widened. No," she replied, her voice trembling. She stared into the camera nervously. It's going to be fine. My water is boiling. It's time to slip the skin off the peaches. They're slippery." Vivian tilted her head and leaned in closer. "Slippery peaches, huh? Well, let's hope they don't make you slip up in the competition." She flashed another smile at the camera. "They won't," Zoe muttered. "I've got this." On her other side, Rachel Simmons worked with intense focus. She crimped the edges of her pie using sharp, precise movements, almost as if she were engineering it. Rachel's pie, a complex creation of pumpkin, chocolate, and pralines, was ready to go in the oven before any of the others. Then she cleaned her station and stood with her arms crossed, watching the rest of the contestants like a hawk. Meanwhile, Fiona Green stood coolly crushing ginger snaps for her pie filling as her crust blind baked in the oven. Her apron was clean, her station was tidy, and everything was in its place. It seemed as if nothing could ruffle her calm exterior. Vivian Hart was everywhere. Her heels clicked on the hardwood floor as she circled the contestants, pointing out anything and everything she wanted Ethan to film. There was a brief lull when the pies were baking, and she seized on that opportunity to conduct some interviews. "So, Emma," Vivian asked, flashing her bright white smile, "what's the secret ingredient to your family's baking success?" Emma flushed slightly. "It's not really a secret. My grandmother was a wonderful baker. She taught me everything I know." "Would it be fair to say she recorded all her best recipes and tips in that book?" "That's true," Emma said, pride in her voice. "It took her decades to fill these pages. There's no other cookbook in the world like it." Vivian smiled even wider. "A real family cookbook like that is worth its weight in gold these days." Before long, the timer rang, signaling the end of the round. The bakers gathered around the judging table and carefully placed their pies in the designated spots. Marion hovered nearby, beaming, clipboard in hand. Vivian checked her hair and makeup in a hand mirror as Ethan prepared to film the judging. Emma's Dutch apple pie was beautifully browned and crumbly on top. Zoe's peach lattice pie was neat, but a little overcooked on the edges. Rachel's pralines were picture perfect, and Fiona's pear and ginger snap contribution looked almost too good to eat. The judges, Vivian, Cora, and Marion, received a slice of each pie to taste. Vivian took a dramatic bite of Emma's pie first, her eyes widening for the camera. "Incredible!" she exclaimed. "This is a classic for a reason. You just can't beat a timeless recipe." The rest of the pies were tasted and ranked, but it was no surprise to anyone when Emma was declared the winner of the round. Zoe gave her a thumbs up. Rachel's jaw tightened visibly. Fiona graciously congratulated her. The pies were all moved to a display table by the window. Small white wooden crates had been turned upside down and stacked to create a rustic podium. Emma's pie was placed on top, the other three below. A photographer herded the bakers behind it and took some pictures for the local newspaper. Afterward, the contestants began to pack up their stations. Emma lovingly wiped her cookbook and tucked it securely into the cupboard under her workbench. Rachel stacked her bowls with a little more force than necessary. Vivian, on the other hand, didn't linger. The moment the camera switched off, she was on her phone, her fingers tapping furiously. Cora sighed. The day had been chaotic, and the bake-off was only beginning. She ducked into her office with Archie to get a little paperwork done. When she came out, almost everyone was gone. Only Zoe was left. The younger woman seemed distracted, glancing around the cafe as she tucked her things into her bag. "Are you okay, Zoe?" Cora asked gently, wiping her hands on her apron. Zoe blinked and twisted the bag's strap between her fingers. "Oh, yeah, I hope I don't blow this." She gave Cora a shaky smile. Cora smiled back. "I'm sure you'll do fine. Just take it one step at a time." Zoe nodded, but she didn't seem reassured. She thanked Cora and slipped out the door. On the second day of the bake-off, Vivian and Ethan arrived early to do a sound check. Soon, the contestants trickled in and began setting up their stations for the pastry challenge. Zoe didn't look like she'd gained much confidence from Cora's pep talk the day before. If anything, she looked more nervous. Her hands shook visibly, and she blinked as though trying to hold back tears. The customers buzzed with excitement, but the atmosphere took a sharp turn when a frantic voice pierced through the chatter. "Where's my cookbook?" Emma's voice trembled with panic as she searched her station. She threw aside utensils, frantically lifting pans and trays as if the binder might somehow have slipped underneath them. "I left it right here yesterday. I swear it was right here." Vivian shoved Ethan into position to film the unfolding drama, but Fiona spoke up before she could say anything. "I saw Zoe with it yesterday." Zoe's face crumpled as all eyes swung toward her. "Where's my grandmother's cookbook?" Emma demanded. "I just wanted to look at it," Zoe pleaded, the tears spilling out of her big brown eyes. "I didn't mean any harm." Rachel raised one sharp eyebrow, and her mouth twitched into a half-smile. "Oh, Zoe, what did you do?" Zoe twisted the hem of her apron between her hands. She looked like she wanted to be sick. I spilled a little coffee on it. It was an accident. I didn't want to ruin it, so I took it to the back and spread it open on a rack to dry. That's all, I swear." "Okay," Emma said, her voice dangerous. "So where is it now?" "Well," Zoe said, wiping away a tear with the back of her hand, "I went to the back as soon as I got here this morning so I could return it. But it wasn't there." Her voice cracked. "I thought maybe Emma saw the book in there and got it already, but it's just gone." "Are you serious?" Rachel laughed. "You lost it?" Zoe's eyes darted around the room, as though pleading for someone to believe her. "I didn't lose it. Someone else must have taken it. Come on, I'll show you." Without waiting for a response, Zoe turned and led the way to the back of the cafe. Cora followed Ethan and the rest of the contestants through the swinging doors into the kitchen. Zoe rushed to a small wire rack near the back where various utensils and kitchen towels hung. "I left it right here," she said, pointing at an empty space on the middle shelf. "I laid it out to finish drying after I wiped it down." "Convenient," Rachel sneered, crossing her arms over her chest. "You expect us to believe that?" Zoe's face flushed. "Why would I lie about it?" "Maybe you realized you could use the recipes yourself," Rachel shot back. "Taking Emma out of the competition and using her cookbook could put you in the lead." She cast a sharp glance at Cora and raised her eyebrows. "I would never do a thing like that," Zoe cried, her voice cracking. "Oh, please," Rachel continued. "You're practically shaking in your shoes. It's obvious you're hiding something." "Or," Fiona interjected calmly, "maybe she's nervous because everyone thinks she took it. Besides, Emma could be the one hiding it." All eyes turned to Emma, who stiffened in disbelief. "What?" Emma looked genuinely stunned. "Why would I do that?" "Think about it," Fiona said. "If Emma hid her own cookbook, it would make it look like someone had stolen it. What better way to get some of the other contestants disqualified?" Emma's face reddened with anger. "That's ridiculous! I won yesterday! I don't need to get anyone kicked out, least of all Zoe." She stopped. "No offense, Zoe. Maybe you took it, Fiona." Fiona scoffed. "No, thank you. I'm not worried about my baking." Tears trembled in Zoe's eyes again. "I swear I didn't take it. If I did, why would I admit to moving it in the first place?" Rachel rolled her eyes. "You only did that because Fiona saw you." Emma's frustration boiled over. "Well, maybe you took it, Rachel. You're the one who said you'd do anything to win." Rachel's eyes narrowed. "I don't need your dusty old recipes. I've worked hard for this." "Then who took it?" Fiona demanded, her voice rising. "If none of us stole it, then where is it?" "What's going on here?" Marian bustled in, her brow furrowed in concern. "Is everything all right?" "No, everything is not all right," Emma cried. "My grandmother's cookbook is missing." Marian's expression immediately cleared. "Oh, that's no problem," she said, waving a hand. "I saw the book lying in the back when I came in earlier this morning. I thought that wasn't a very safe place for it, so I moved it." Zoe's face flooded with relief. "See, I told you. I didn't do anything." Marian smiled at her. "I'm so sorry. It seems I've caused an uproar. Let me just grab it for you, Emma." Cora and the contestants followed her out to the front of the cafe, with Ethan bringing up the rear. Vivian sat at the judges' table and touched up her bright magenta lipstick, looking bored. Marian bustled up to the front counter and bent behind it to reach one of its low shelves. After a moment of rummaging, her confident expression faltered, and she stood up, empty-handed. "It's not here," she said slowly. I put it right here. It should be here." The tension in the room snapped back into place like a rubber band. "What do you mean it's not there?" Emma asked, her voice rising again. Marian's face paled and she fidgeted with her glasses. I don't understand. I know I put it here. Something must have happened to it. Rachel let out a harsh laugh. Great. So now all of us are suspects again. The 4 contestants plus Marian began to argue with each other again. Cora watched the whole scene unfold, her stomach twisting. This bake-off was spinning out of control fast. She glanced down at Archie. He sat by her feet, his ears pricked up in concern. Marian wrung her hands. What should we do? Should we cancel? Should we reschedule? Vivian snapped her compact shut. Oh, I won't be able to reschedule. Marian looked at Cora in distress. Cora shook her head uncertainly. I suppose we must go through with it, Marian said. This is a competition, after all. We'll move forward with today's bakes, unless anyone feels they need to drop out. The 4 bakers looked at each other suspiciously, but no one volunteered to quit. All right then, Marian said. Let's bake. As the bakers began making their pastry, Cora slipped behind the counter and ran her hand over the shelf where Marian had left the cookbook. Where could it have gone? She moved some boxes around, hoping it had simply slipped behind a storage tub. Archie sniffed the floor beside her, then let out a tiny sneeze. Bless you, Archie, Cora said. Archie looked up at her. His pink tongue lolled out of his mouth as he panted, and he wagged his silky tail. A smudge of something white covered half of his little black nose. Cora bent down, her eyes narrowing. A dusting of some powder drifted across a patch of the floorboards about the size of her palm. Archie had left his little paw prints and a mark from his nose around the edges, but there was also part of a shoe print. It was smeared and incomplete, so all Cora could make out was a pointed toe. She looked down at her own feet, where she wore practical round-toed, rubber-soled, anti-slip kitchen shoes. Then she looked out toward the competition, where Marian drifted from baker to baker. Marian wasn't wearing pointed shoes either. Her comfortable-looking tan loafers had square toes. So, Marian hadn't left the footprint. Someone else had been behind the counter. Someone whose shoes had pointed toes. Cora ran a finger through the white substance on the floor and inspected it. Powdered sugar. It must have gotten there when she dusted the raspberry almond scones this morning. That meant the footprint almost certainly belonged to whoever had taken the cookbook. She straightened and took another sharp look at the contestants, all busily mixing or rolling out their pastry dough. Their feet were concealed by the workbenches in front of them. Maybe if she found out who was wearing a pair of pointed shoes, she could find out who had taken the cookbook. Cora took a deep breath and wiped her hands on her apron, casually moving toward the contestants' stations. She took her time, walking around as if she were checking on everyone's progress. Fiona was on one end, turning her puff pastry with precision. She glanced up, offering a polite smile as she continued to work. Cora made a point of admiring her technique, but she was more interested in her shoes. Fiona wore practical black flats with rubber soles and rounded toes. It wasn't her, then. There wasn't any space to walk behind the busy tables, so Cora went around to the other end. Emma was struggling to keep her cool. Without her cookbook, she was forced to use a pastry recipe she had hurriedly pulled up on her phone. Cora felt almost guilty for suspecting her. Emma certainly looked as if she were really distressed. Her eyes were rimmed with red, and she kept blinking as if to hold back tears. Cora craned her neck to get a look at Emma's shoes, and her guilty feelings gave way to relief. Emma wore pretty polka-dot ballet flats with bows on their soft, rounded toes. Next up was Zoe. The poor girl still looked frazzled, but she layered butter into her dough with determination. "Everything going okay?" Cora asked gently. Zoe wiped her brow with the back of her wrist. "I've got this," she said. "I'm actually really good at pastry." She shot a worried glance toward Emma's table. "I'm sure you are," Cora replied. Then Zoe turned to grab a bench scraper, and Cora saw her shoes. Worn black sneakers with thick soles and rainbow laces. That ruled Zoe out. Rachel's station was last. Unlike everyone else, she was making a yeast-based dough. She stood kneading her dough without moving for a long time. Finally, Cora crouched down and pretended to tie her shoe so she could look under Rachel's table. Below her pristine white apron, Rachel wore a pair of flat black shoes with sharp, pointed toes. Cora's heart skipped a beat. She stood up, her mind racing. Did Rachel want to win badly enough to try taking out the competition? She decided to test the waters. "How is everything going, Rachel?" Rachel barely looked up. "Fine," she said. She didn't look fine, though. She seemed to be losing steam, her face pale and her expression distracted. Her hands shook when she finally set her dough aside. Cora moved toward the judging area to share her suspicions with Marion, but Archie had other ideas. He trotted over to Vivian instead, happily sniffing around her feet. Vivian looked down at him, frowning slightly as she shook one bright blue high-heeled pump at him. "Come on, Archie," Cora called. She stooped to pick him up. When she did, she noticed a little bit of white powder on the pointed tip of Vivian's shoe. "Looks like you got something on your shoe," she said. Vivian's eyes flicked down, and she laughed. "Oh, I guess I got too close to the baker's. Thanks for letting me know." She grabbed a napkin and wiped her shoe clean again. Vivian walked off through the crowd to toss the napkin in the trash, and Cora watched her go. That was suspicious. Very suspicious. But what possible reason could their celebrity guest judge have to sabotage the bake-off? The pastry round came to a close, and the delicious scent of fresh baked goods with warm, sugary filling floated into the cafe. When the timer buzzed, Marion called the contestants to the judging table. They each carried their pastries in front of the panel. Emma was first, and Cora could tell from the way she held the tray of Napoleons she was still rattled. She set her pastries on the table and Cora leaned in for a closer look. The layers were there, but they lacked that delicate crispiness they should have had. Even the icing on top looked rushed. Marion took a bite, her face neutral as she chewed. "It's good," she said, though there wasn't much excitement in her voice. "Not your best, but very good under the circumstances." Cora nodded in agreement after she swallowed her own sample. The flavors were all right, but the texture was off. The pastry didn't quite hit the mark. Emma's tight smile faltered as she took in the feedback. Next came Fiona with lemon and raspberry tartlets. The tartlets themselves were stunning, golden, crisp, and perfectly shaped. The zest of fresh lemon wafted appetizingly from them. The judges each took a bite, and a collective murmur of approval rippled through the panel. "Perfection," Vivian said absently. She smiled briefly, but her eyes kept returning to her phone, face down on the table. "The texture of your pastry is perfect, and the filling is spot on." Fiona accepted the praise with a nod. Zoe was up next. Her hands trembled slightly as she presented her glazed blueberry danishes. They were golden and crisp, the layers flaking delicately as the judges cut into them. Cora couldn't help but smile when she took a bite. "These are very good," she said, impressed by the light, airy layers. "Your lamination is excellent. Nicely done." Zoe let out a quiet sigh of relief, and a smile flickered across her face. Then it was Rachel's turn. She set her tray down heavily, and Cora saw with concern that she seemed even shakier than before. The other judges leaned in to taste the golden chocolate-filled croissants. Vivian took a bite first. Her face twisted in disgust, and she coughed, scrambling for a napkin to spit it out. "Disgusting! This is inedible." Cora and Marion looked at each other. They each took a hesitant nibble, with the same result. "There is far too much salt in this," Marion said. "What happened?" Rachel's pale face flushed with rage. "Let me try that." She grabbed a croissant and took a bite. Her eyes widened, and she spit her piece out too. She turned on the other contestants. "Who did this?" she demanded, her voice rising. "Who tampered with my dough?" Zoe's jaw dropped. "What? Why are you looking at me? I didn't do anything." "Oh, please," Rachel shot back. stabbing an accusatory finger in her direction. "First, Emma's cookbook is stolen, and now my pastries are ruined. Someone is picking us off one by one. It has to be one of you two." Her eyes darted between Zoe and Fiona. Fiona's lips thinned into a tight line. "Rachel, no one touched your dough. There are too many people watching. Someone would have noticed." "Fine," Rachel snapped. "Then you tampered with my ingredients before we started. Someone salted my sugar." Cora frowned at the accusation and exchanged another look with Marion. "Let's go check Rachel's station." Marion nodded, and the two walked over to Rachel's counter. Vivian didn't even bother to get up. She was already on her phone. Instead, she just waved for Ethan to follow the other judges. While Rachel fumed, Cora and Marion poked through her ingredients. They inspected the sugar and tasted it hesitantly, but there was no trace of salt in it. The flour, yeast, and milk all seemed perfectly normal. There was no obvious sign that anyone had switched things or added anything unusual. "There's no evidence of sabotage," Marion declared, "and we can't penalize anyone without proof." Rachel scowled, but before she could protest again, Marion raised her clipboard. "After tasting all the pastries, we have a clear winner for today's challenge." She smiled brightly. "Congratulations, Fiona!" The contestants and the roomful of onlookers applauded politely, but the tension hadn't lifted. The pastries were taken to the display table podium, and the bakers were assembled behind it for photos. Cora wondered how well the pictures would turn out. Rachel crossed her arms, glaring daggers at Zoe and Fiona. Everyone else looked nervous and suspicious of each other. The photographer tried several times to get a good shot, but in the end had to be content with what he could get. Vivian slipped out as soon as possible, lifting her phone to her ear and pointing at it when Marion tried to speak to her. The competition was falling apart, and there was still one more day to go. On the third and final day of the Maplewood Bake-Off, the rain stopped and the clouds vanished. The sun shone brightly through the windows, making a warm yellow patchwork on the hardwood floor. Cora spotted Detective Jameson as he pushed his way into the cafe. He ducked through clusters of spectators to reach the counter, where she had his coffee waiting. Jameson grabbed the mug and glanced around, his sharp blue eyes sweeping the room. "What are they making today?" he asked. "Layer cakes, and my life difficult," Cora replied. She set down her coffee pot and leaned against the counter. "I'm glad you're here. I could use your help." Jameson raised an eyebrow with a smirk. "Help with what? Cakes or crime?" When he saw the serious look on Cora's face, though, his smile faded. "What's going on?" Cora sighed and wiped her hands on her apron. She gestured toward the contestants, who were busily mixing bowls of batter. "There's a mystery here, and I'm running out of time to solve it before this competition ends." Jameson's gaze followed hers. "You think one of them is up to something?" "I know someone is." Cora kept her voice low. "Emma's prize-winning cookbook went missing right after the first round. Then, during yesterday's challenge, Rachel claimed that someone tampered with her ingredients and made her ruin her croissants." Jameson frowned slightly. "But you don't think so?" "We checked everything we could," she said. "We didn't find anything, but Rachel is convinced that someone's trying to sabotage the contestants." Jameson folded his arms, his expression thoughtful. "Or maybe she ruined her entry on purpose, so it wouldn't be so obvious she stole the cookbook." Cora was taken aback. "I don't think so. If she had stolen the cookbook, it would be to win the competition. I don't think she would want the recipes more than she wants to win." She laughed. "I mean, she really wants to win." Jameson's gaze lingered on the contestants. "That's taking a baking contest a little seriously, isn't it? The prize money can't be that much." "No," Cora admitted, "but this whole thing is being filmed. She might think that winning it could help kickstart her career." "They're filming this?" Jameson asked. At Cora's nod, he snapped his fingers. "So check the tapes." "What?" "Check the tapes from yesterday," he repeated. "See if there's anything to back up her sabotage claim." Cora stared. "That's a really good idea." Jameson chuckled and took a swig of his coffee. I have those sometimes. Ethan was filming Zoe while she placed 3 tins of chocolate cake batter into the oven. Cora waited for him to finish the shot and put his camera down before she tapped him on the shoulder. Hi, can I ask you for a favor? Ethan glanced at her in surprise. Sure, what do you need? Would you mind letting me see the footage from yesterday, specifically during the baking portion of the pastry round? Ethan looked puzzled. He turned from her to Jameson, who had come up behind her. Are you looking for something specific? Cora hesitated. We're trying to figure out if Rachel was really sabotaged. Ethan tilted his head, then shrugged. Sure, why not? Just remember, I can't film everything all the time. He waved toward his camera. Come on, let's take a look. Cora and Jameson, with Archie at their heels, followed Ethan to a small table off to the side. He had a laptop set up there, hooked to computer equipment that Cora couldn't identify. Then he pulled up some footage and showed them how to fast-forward through it. Thanks, Cora said. This might take us a while. Knock yourself out, he replied. I've got to get back to the competition. He left to film Fiona, who was pulling her pans from the oven. Cora sat down in a chair by Jameson and lifted Archie into her lap as the video played. The camera panned between the contestants while they prepared their entries. Emma stared at her sifter with reddened eyes. Zoe fumbled with her dough a little but seemed to get it under control. Fiona worked methodically, as usual, her station neat and orderly. None of them strayed over to Rachel's table or even looked toward her more than once or twice. Rachel, meanwhile, was acting a little off. There, Cora said, pausing the footage. She pointed to Rachel, whose hands shook visibly as she downed half a glass of water in one gulp. Jameson frowned. Looks like she's nervous. A guilty conscience? No, I don't think so, Cora murmured. Look. They kept watching. Rachel's face was pale and drawn. At one point, she wiped her brow with the back of her hand and leaned against her workbench. She added some salt to her dough, took another huge drink of water, then measured and added another, even larger scoop of salt. Cora gasped. She added the salt twice. So what? Jameson asked. She tried to blame someone else for her mistake? So what? Jameson asked. She tried to blame someone else for her mistake? I don't think so, Cora said slowly. But at least we can rule out sabotage. She was about to close the laptop when something else caught her eye. She rewound the footage for a few seconds, focusing on a subtle movement in the background. There, just behind the contestants, Vivian Hart lingered near the winner's display table. Her hand hovered over the crates that formed the podium, and she glanced over her shoulder. What's she doing? Jameson asked, leaning in. Before anything more could happen, Marion bustled into the shot with her usual enthusiasm. Vivian straightened at once, plastering on a smile as Ethan panned away. That was weird, right? Jameson persisted. Actually, Cora said, it makes perfect sense. The timer buzzed and Cora's head jerked up. The round was over. Looking through the footage had taken more time than she realized. She handed Archie to Jameson and hurried to the judges' table where the contestants were already lining up their cakes. Everyone had managed a good showing for the final. Emma, more prepared today to bake without her cookbook, had made a beautiful lemon layer cake. Rachel seemed determined to make up for her disaster the day before with a tiered creation featuring caramelized sugar and almonds. Zoe had managed an outstanding chocolate raspberry cake that looked even better than her efforts from the first 2 days. Fiona's sophisticated berry and cream cake had blackberry preserves and whipped vanilla cream cheese between each layer. It was topped with fresh blackberries. Cora joined the other judges as they clustered around the cakes, murmuring and taking notes. It wasn't long before Marion stepped forward with a bright smile, her clipboard clutched to her chest. This has been a truly extraordinary competition, she began. Each of you has demonstrated remarkable skill and creativity, despite the unfortunate, but there can only be one winner. Cora looked around the room. Every eye was locked on Marion, except for Vivian's. She wasn't looking at the cakes or even the contestants. She kept glancing toward the display table where the cakes would soon be placed for photos. Marion's voice cut through Cora's thoughts. "And the winner of the Maplewood Bake-Off is Fiona Green!" The room erupted in applause. Fiona stepped forward to accept her ribbon, her smile radiant. The other bakers clapped politely, with varying degrees of disappointment visible on their faces. While the celebration whirled around her, Cora watched Vivian. Vivian, never one to miss an opportunity to be in the spotlight, had slipped away from the judges' table and was edging toward the display area. Fortunately, Cora was closer. She slipped through the crowd and headed for the table herself. Vivian locked eyes with her for a moment, and Cora was sure she didn't imagine the look of alarm on her face. Vivian's hand shot out as if to stop her, but there was nothing she could do. Cora was already there. Taking a deep breath, Cora lifted the crate from the table to peer underneath. There, tucked inside, was a worn, familiar shape. It was Emma's cookbook. She carefully pulled it out and replaced the crate before raising the book high for everyone to see. "Vivian Hart," she called, "you have some explaining to do." Vivian stood frozen in place, color draining from her face. The clapping and cheers faded into silence as everyone turned to look. "My cookbook!" Emma cried, rushing forward. "You found it!" Cora handed the cookbook back to its rightful owner. "Oh, how wonderful!" Vivian said. Her smile looked sickly. "And it was right over there all along?" "You should know," Cora snapped, "since you're the one who put it there. You've been hovering by this table since yesterday." Vivian tossed her hair, then crossed her arms tightly over her chest. "That is ridiculous. You think I stole that dusty old book? Please." She rolled her eyes and shot a glance at the watching crowd. "Why would I need to steal recipes from a nobody?" Marion gasped indignantly. "That nobody is Edith Carter's granddaughter. Her recipes are priceless." "Especially for you," Cora continued. "I looked you up. You're under pressure from your publisher to deliver a best-selling cookbook. You thought Emma's recipes would make that happen." Vivian scowled. She pulled herself up to her full height, stepping into Cora's space with a sneer. "What about you? You're the one running this disaster of a competition. Maybe you're the one who lost it, maybe even damaged it, and you're just looking for someone to blame. I'm a public figure. My reputation is impeccable. You think anyone will believe that I would stoop to this? They'll laugh you out of the room." Marion opened her mouth to protest, but Cora held up her hand. "No, Vivian," she said, her voice calm. "They won't laugh, because I have proof." Vivian scoffed. "Proof? Standing by a table isn't proof of anything." "Maybe not," Cora said quietly, reaching for the cookbook again. Emma relinquished it reluctantly. "It turns out, though, you left something behind when you rifled through it." She flipped the cookbook open, showing a small smudge of bright magenta on the corner of the first page. "You got some lipstick on it. You really shouldn't lick your fingers when you turn pages. It's unsanitary." Vivian stared at the betraying smudge for a long moment. "Fine," she snapped. "Yes, I took it. So what? You think anyone will care about this stupid little town and its stupid baking competition? I've already taken pictures of some of the best recipes. Recipes can't be copyrighted. I can still use them. I'll still be a bestseller." After a moment of thick silence, Ethan spoke up. "No, you won't, Vivian," he said, his voice full of disgust. "I'm still filming." Vivian's face twisted furiously. She tried to grab the camera from Ethan, but Detective Jameson stepped in between them, still holding Archie. He looked down, then set the little dog on the floor. "All right, ma'am," he said. "I'm afraid I have some questions for you." Cora took a deep breath as Jameson led Vivian Hart away. She turned back to the 4 contestants. Fiona and Marion whispered by the judges' table. Emma stood a few feet away and clutched her cookbook to her chest, still visibly shaken. Zoe lingered awkwardly near her table. Rachel found a chair and sat down, scowling. Cora approached Rachel gently. "Can I have a word?" Rachel looked up at her. "What is it? I don't feel like talking, especially not after all of this." "I understand," Cora said, "but I've noticed your hands shaking, and you seem a bit out of sorts when you were baking. I know you've been through a lot with this competition, but I think there's more to it than just stress." Rachel blinked, her frown deepening. "What are you talking about?" "We checked the tapes from yesterday," Cora said. "No one tampered with your pastry. You were just so shaky you made mistakes. Your symptoms looked like low blood sugar. I think you ought to see a doctor. You might be diabetic." Rachel hesitated. "But I feel fine." "Did you feel fine yesterday?" Cora asked. "Let me guess, you skipped a meal." Rachel looked stunned. "Yes, I didn't have time for breakfast yesterday. Thanks, Cora. I think I owe Rachel and Fiona an apology." Cora nodded. That would be a good start. She moved over to Emma, who still clutched her grandmother's cookbook. "I've been thinking," Emma said. "After everything that's happened, maybe I should publish my grandmother's recipes myself. I can't let someone else take credit for them. It's time I do something to honor her memory properly." Cora beamed. "That's a wonderful idea, Emma. I think your grandmother would be proud." Emma smiled, tears in her eyes. "It feels like the right thing to do." Finally, Cora walked over to Fiona and Zoe, who had started to pack up their stations. She took a deep breath and put on her best smile. "Fiona, Zoe, I wanted to speak with both of you. I've been thinking about the future of the cafe. I know both of you applied for the open position and—" "Wait," Fiona said. "Before you make any decisions, I wanted to let you know that I'm withdrawing my application." Zoe's eyes widened in surprise, and Cora raised an eyebrow. "Withdrawing? Are you sure?" Fiona smiled warmly. "Yes. After winning today, I've realized there are bigger competitions I want to enter. There's so much more I want to accomplish, and this seems like the right step for me." Cora nodded. "That's exciting, Fiona. I have no doubt you'll go far. Your skills are incredible." "Thank you," Fiona said, smiling. "It's been great being part of this bake-off, and I know you'll find someone perfect for the cafe." She winked. "Good luck, Zoe. I'm sure you'll do well here." Zoe looked caught off guard. "Thank you, Fiona. That means a lot." Cora turned to Zoe. "She's right. You've got incredible potential, and I think you'd be a great fit here." "Really?" Zoe smiled, the brightest, most genuine smile Cora had seen from her all weekend. "Thank you so much. I won't let you down." "I know you won't," Cora replied. "Welcome to espresso yourself." Later that evening, Detective Jameson strolled back in, hands in his pockets. "Well, I'd say things have calmed down a bit since this morning, wouldn't you?" Cora chuckled, setting down her towel. "A bit? I'm never hosting a bake-off again." Jameson slid into his regular seat at the counter, giving Archie a light pat on the head. The dog stirred in his sleep, kicking against the green upholstery of his favorite chair. "You handled it pretty well, though. Even managed to solve another mystery while you were at it." Cora smiled and poured him a fresh cup of coffee. "Well, you were here when I needed you, I'll give you that." Jameson chuckled. "Emma Carter's not pressing charges, but I think it's safe to say that Vivian's career has taken a hit. I hear she lost her publishing deal." Cora nodded. "Good. She thought she'd get away with it, but she underestimated us. I doubt she'll be showing her face around here anytime soon." Jameson raised his coffee cup in a mock toast. "Here's to another case cracked." Cora grinned and grabbed a cup for herself, clinking it lightly against his. "To teamwork." "Here's hoping that things calm down for a while." "Agreed," Jameson said, his eyes twinkling. "But if they don't, you know where to find me."